So, get this. I was standing there, right? In my dream dress, the one I'd picked out with my mom, the one I'd pictured myself wearing a million times since I was a little girl. All the guests were seated, the string quartet was playing that song from Pachelbel, you know the one, and my dad had just kissed my cheek and put my hand in, well, in the empty air where Mark was supposed to be. I was at the altar, looking down the aisle, heart absolutely pounding, not with nerves, but with that stupid, bubbly excitement you only get on your wedding day. And then my phone buzzed. Just once. I tried to ignore it, thought maybe it was my maid of honor checking on something, but it buzzed again. And again. My dad gave me a little squeeze, a worried look on his face, but he just whispered, "He'll be here, honey." Just taking it all in. So, against every fiber of my being, I fished out my phone from the little pocket sewn into my dress liner. It was Mark, a text. My stomach dropped even before I opened it, like a lead weight, just plunging. The screen lit up, blinding me for a second, and there it was. One sentence, not even a babe or a love, just, "Can't do this. Sorry, can't do this. Sorry." That's it. My fiancé, the man I was literally about to marry, sent me a text, right there, while I was standing at the altar. I'm not even kidding. The world just stopped. The string quartet sounded like it was playing underwater. The faces of the guests, all blurry, their smiles dissolving into horrified grimaces. My dad's grip on my arm tightened, his eyes scanning my face, seeing whatever nightmare was written there. I swear I could feel the blood drain out of me, leaving me cold and hollow. It was like someone had reached in and ripped my soul right out of my chest, then stuffed a handful of ice chips in the void. Can't do this. Sorry, that was it. That was the end of everything. My wedding day, my future, my Mark. But let me back up, because you won't believe how we got here. Mark and I, we were the kind of couple people rolled their eyes at, but secretly wanted to be. We met in college, a stupid mix-up with class schedules, and ended up stuck in the same intro philosophy course. He was a history major, all quiet charm and a brilliant, quick wit that would surface when you least expected it. I was a literature nerd, always with my nose in a book. We just clicked, instantly. We dated all through college, moved in together right after graduation. We had this tiny apartment above a bakery, and the smell of fresh bread would wake us up every morning. We'd make coffee, sometimes just sit on the fire escape and talk for hours, planning our lives, laughing about nothing. He was my best friend, my rock, my everything. We were inseparable. We shared dreams, you know? Of buying a little house with a big garden, of traveling to Italy, of maybe having 2 kids, a boy and a girl. He'd sketch out floor plans on napkins while we were out to dinner, imagining our dream home. I'd pore over travel guides, dog-earing pages for Rome and Florence. We even had a specific coffee shop we went to every Saturday morning, just our spot, where we'd talk about the week, our hopes, our fears. He knew me better than anyone, knew my favorite mug, the way I liked my tea, the specific shade of blue I loved. We'd been together for nearly 8 years when he proposed, on a rainy Tuesday, in our living room, after a particularly terrible day for both of us. He said, "I realized today that no matter how bad things get, you make them better just by being here. Let's make it forever." It wasn't grand, but it was us. It was real, or so I thought. Looking back, I was so blind. Things started, slowly, subtly. So slowly, in fact, that I convinced myself I was imagining it. It probably started about a year before the wedding, maybe even a little earlier. He started going out more. Not like raging parties, just drinks with the guys, or a work thing. And he'd come home later and later. At first, I didn't think anything of it. He was a professional now, needed to network, right? But then the smell of stale beer and cheap cologne would cling to his clothes, a scent that definitely wasn't him. And the way the floorboard just outside our bedroom would creak at 3 a.m. when he tried to sneak in, thinking I was asleep. I'd pretend I was, though, just to avoid the awkward conversations, the vague answers. Then came the phone. It became an extension of his hand, always face down, always muted. If I walked into the room, he'd subtly angle it away, or quickly close whatever app he was on. I'd tease him, "Who are you talking to, your secret girlfriend?" And he'd just laugh, a short, humorless bark, and say, "Just work stuff, you know how it is." But I didn't know how it was. My work stuff didn't involve sudden, hushed phone calls from the other room, or him disappearing for a walk, right after a text came in. The money started going missing too. Small amounts at first, a 20 here, a 50 there. I'm meticulously organized with our finances, always have been. He was not. So when I noticed the balance in our joint savings dipping slightly more than usual, I asked him. He'd always have an excuse. Oh, I bought lunch for the whole team. Had to cover a friend for something. Just put gas in the car. All plausible, all just enough to make me feel like I was being overly suspicious. But that little voice, that tiny, insistent whisper in the back of my mind, started getting louder. It wasn't just a feeling anymore. It was a cold dread that would curl in my gut whenever he brought up an unexpected expense or looked a little too shifty when I asked about something. The man I loved was becoming a stranger, shrouded in secrets, and I felt like I was losing my mind trying to piece together why. The wedding planning was in full swing, and every time I tried to talk to him about it, he'd just nod vaguely, say, "Whatever you want, babe," and go back to scrolling on his phone. The excitement I used to share with him about our future was replaced by this gnawing anxiety, this feeling that something was fundamentally wrong, but I couldn't put my finger on it. Here's where it gets truly insane. It was 2 weeks before the wedding. 2 weeks. I was picking up his suit from the tailor. The one he'd finally picked out after weeks of me dragging him to fittings. I grabbed his wallet from the side table. He'd forgotten it, and I needed his ID for the pickup. As I pulled it out of his coat pocket, a small, folded receipt slipped out. It wasn't just a receipt. It was a restaurant bill. For 2 people, dated last Tuesday night, when he told me he was working late and I'd eaten leftover takeout alone. The place was fancy, way too expensive for just a work dinner. And the total, it was astronomical. My heart started thumping like a drum against my ribs. I looked closer. At the bottom, scrawled in a familiar, looping hand, was a name and a number. "Call me, Chloe." In that looping hand, it was Mark's. My vision went blurry with hot, furious tears, but I shoved the receipt back in the wallet, slammed the coat down, and stormed out of the apartment. I went to the tailor, picked up the goddamn suit, and drove home in a haze of pure adrenaline and sickening dread. I wanted to confront him right then, but I was shaking too much. I needed to be calm. I needed to be cold. He walked in around 6 p.m., whistling, completely oblivious. Or so he pretended. He tossed his keys on the counter. "Hey, babe, what's for dinner?" "I'm starving." I just stared at him. The vein in my neck started to throb. "Where were you last Tuesday night, Mark?" I asked, my voice dangerously even. He paused, a tiny flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. Work. You know. Big presentation coming up." He tried to smile, that easy, charming smile he used to win over everyone. It made me want to claw his face off. "No, Mark, not work. You weren't at work." I took the receipt out of my pocket, unfolded it, and slapped it onto the counter between us. The paper crinkled loudly in the sudden silence. This is where you were. With Chloe." "Who is Chloe, Mark? And why is your number scrawled on the bottom of a dinner bill for 2, for a place that costs more than my monthly rent, when you told me you were working late?" His face went white, then mottled red. He stammered, what? Where did you get that?" That's nothing. It was a client, a new client. She's just a little pushy, you know? She insisted on dinner, and I had to play nice." He tried to grab the receipt, but I snatched it away. "A client? Call me, Chloe. You think I'm stupid, Mark? You think I'm that naive?" My voice was rising now, trembling with a mix of fury and heartbreak. "We're getting married in 2 weeks. In 2 weeks, and you're out having fancy dinners with clients, who are clearly more than clients. Don't you dare accuse me of something like that," he shouted, his face contorting into a mask of outrage. His neck flushed red, and I could practically see the anger radiating off him. "You're being completely unreasonable. Over a receipt. Are you serious? This is why I can't tell you anything. You blow everything out of proportion." "Blow it out of proportion?" I shrieked, tears finally spilling down my face, hot and stinging. "You lied to me. You're cheating on me. You've been lying to me for months, probably, with your late nights, your secret phone calls, the money missing." He threw his hands up, a performative gesture of exasperation. "The money? Now we're talking about money? You're just looking for things to accuse me of. I told you, I covered some things for work, helped out a friend. You're always so obsessed with the budget, it's suffocating, you know that? It drives me insane." "No, Mark, what drives me insane is your deceit. The fact that you think I wouldn't notice. The fact that you're so smug about it, acting like I'm the problem for questioning you." I could smell the faint, sickly sweet scent of cheap perfume on his shirt now, undeniable and sickening. The realization hit me like a physical blow. It wasn't just a fancy dinner. It was a pattern, A whole other life. I am not cheating on you, he roared, slamming his fist on the counter, making the coffee maker jump. This is your insecurity talking. You're always so clingy, so needy. You're jealous of every female colleague I have. You're driving me away, can't you see that? I'm driving you away? I laughed, a harsh, broken sound that didn't even sound like my own. I'm driving you away? I'm here, planning our wedding, our future, and you're out sleeping with some Chloe, and blaming me for it? You are despicable, Mark. Absolutely despicable. He scoffed, a truly infuriating sound. Despicable? I'm not the one who's hysterical right now, making wild accusations based on a single dinner receipt. Maybe if you weren't so controlling, so demanding, I wouldn't feel the need to blow off some steam with colleagues. You're always so focused on asterisks. What about me for a change? What about you? I echoed, utterly gutted. You're about to be a husband, Mark. This isn't about blowing off steam. This is betrayal. This is a lie that's been festering for months. He just stared at me, his eyes cold and devoid of any remorse, his smug expression making my blood boil. You're overreacting. You always do. Maybe we should just call off the wedding if you're going to be like this. I can't live with someone who doesn't trust me. He actually said that. He said I was the one who didn't trust him, as if he hadn't given me every reason in the world not to. He made me feel like the villain. The next few days were a blur of pure, unadulterated hell. Mark, of course, doubled down on his gaslighting. He convinced himself, and tried desperately to convince me, that I was the one with the problem. You're just so paranoid, Sarah, he'd say, shaking his head with a sigh, as if I was the one making his life difficult. It's all in your head. Chloe is just a client. You're turning nothing into something huge. He acted like I had ruined everything by daring to question him, rather than the other way around. He even managed to turn some of our mutual friends against me. His flying monkeys, as I now call them. His older sister, who I thought was a friend, called me. Sarah, Mark told me you're having second thoughts about the wedding, she started, her voice falsely sweet. He said you're just overwhelmed, and you're projecting your stress onto him. You know how sensitive he is. You should just apologize and make up. He needs you right now. I was speechless. I tried to explain, to lay out the evidence, but she just cut me off. Honestly, Sarah, Mark wouldn't do anything like that. He loves you. You're being ridiculous. My own maid of honor, Jen, who had been my best friend since high school, suddenly became distant. Mark had apparently told her I was having a breakdown and being unfairly critical of him. Jen, instead of supporting me, started sending me cryptic texts like, "Are you sure you're seeing things clearly?" and maybe give him the benefit of the doubt. I felt utterly alone, betrayed not just by the man I loved, but by the people I thought would stand by me. Mark packed a bag and left the apartment to give me space, which was really just him running away to Chloe's. He left me to deal with the fallout, the cancelled vendors, the awkward phone calls to guests. He didn't offer to help with any of the deposits we'd lost. In fact, he drained our joint account, leaving me with almost nothing. He took the car, the TV, even my favorite antique lamp, claiming they were his. I was left in an empty apartment, with a mountain of debt from a wedding that wasn't happening, and a broken heart that felt like it would never heal. The shame was suffocating. I couldn't even explain to people what had happened, because Mark had already painted me as the hysterical, jealous fiancé. Rock bottom came fast. With no savings, no car, and feeling like a pariah, I couldn't afford the apartment alone. I had to break the lease, losing my security deposit in the process. I ended up couch surfing for a few weeks, crashing at different friends' places, the few who actually still talked to me. But I could feel the pity, the awkwardness. I heard the whispers. I saw the glances. I couldn't stand it. So, I packed a tiny bag, quit my job, and moved back home with my parents, who lived 3 states away. It felt like admitting utter defeat. I was nearly 30, and I was starting over, with nothing but debt and a fractured sense of self. For months, I was a shell. I barely left my childhood bedroom. My mom would bring me food, gently knock on the door, but I'd just pick at it. I scrolled through wedding photos on my phone, photos of Mark and me, smiling, oblivious. I hated myself for being so foolish, for not seeing the signs, for trusting him with my entire future. Every day felt like dragging myself through mud. The dreams we'd shared, the little house with the garden, the travels to Italy, they all turned into painful reminders of what I'd lost. I felt like a ghost in my own life, just drifting, numb. My parents were incredible, though. They didn't push, they just let me be. let me grieve, and slowly, gently, nursed me back to some semblance of life. They reminded me of who I was before Mark, before the rot. It was a long, slow climb out of that pit of despair, but little by little, the numbness began to crack. Years later, and honestly, it feels like a lifetime ago. A different person's life. I moved to a new city, started a new career. Something completely different from what Mark and I had planned. It was terrifying, but exhilarating. I worked my tail off, poured all that pain and anger and grief into building something for myself. I got my own apartment, a cute little place with a balcony, and filled it with my things I loved, no compromises. I met amazing people, found a new circle of friends who knew nothing about Mark or the disaster I used to be. I started traveling, ticking off destinations Mark and I had dreamed of, but seeing them through my own eyes, on my own terms. I even bought a small, scruffy rescue dog, a little terrier mix I named Comet, who fills my life with endless joy and sloppy kisses. I learned to trust myself again, to listen to that gut feeling. To not ignore the red flags. I'm thriving, seriously. My career is soaring, I'm financially independent, and I'm genuinely happy. And Mark? Well, karma, as they say, is a real bitch. His relationship with Chloe apparently imploded about 6 months after our non-wedding. Turns out she wasn't a client at all, but a woman he'd been seeing on the side for months, and she had her own baggage. Their combined irresponsibility led to them both losing their jobs, burning through their savings, and eventually, her leaving him for someone else. I heard through the grapevine, one of my old college friends, who actually apologized for being a flying monkey, and reconnected, that Mark had been spiraling. He lost his apartment, couldn't hold down a job, and had moved back in with his parents. He apparently got into some serious debt, couldn't pay off his credit cards, and even had a car repossessed. Everything he had, everything he thought he deserved, just crumbled. Without me there to prop him up, to organize his life, to cover his messes, he was utterly lost. The smug entitlement, the arrogance, it all just turned into a bitter, resentful desperation. And then, just last week, it happened. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. But something, some morbid curiosity, made me pick up. "Hello?" I said, my voice steady. A hesitant, familiar voice responded. "Sarah, is that really you?" "It's Mark." My blood ran cold for a second, then a wave of pure, potent satisfaction washed over me. "What do you want, Mark?" I asked, my tone flat, emotionless. He started rambling, fast and frantic. "Sarah, listen, I know this is a huge ask, but I'm in a really bad spot. I owe some people money, and I'm about to lose everything. I know I messed up, I know I was a complete idiot, but I have nowhere else to turn. You're the only one who ever really understood me, you know? The only one who ever believed in me." He paused, probably expecting me to soften. I let the silence hang there, heavy and uncomfortable. I pictured him, probably calling from his parents' basement, desperate and pathetic. The smug, entitled man who had shattered my world was reduced to this. "Mark," I finally said, my voice cutting through his self-pity, "you left me at the altar. You drained our accounts, you gaslit me, turned my friends against me, and left me with nothing. You left me to pick up the pieces of a life you destroyed." He stammered, I know, and I'm so sorry. I was young, I was stupid, I was pressured. Chloe, she was a bad influence. But I've learned my lesson. I'm a changed man, Sarah. I just need a little help to get back on my feet. Just a loan, I promise I'll pay you back. I just need $5,000, please. Just until I get my next check. $5,000, the amount I'd lost on our wedding deposits. The sheer audacity. You think you can just call me up, after all these years, after everything you did, and ask me for money? My voice was calm, but inside, a quiet rage, cold and steady, pulsed. You have nowhere else to turn because you burned every single bridge. You made your bed, Mark. Now you get to lie in it. But Sarah, please, I'm desperate. You always said we'd be there for each other, no matter what, he pleaded, his voice cracking. No, Mark, I said that. You just nodded along while you were planning your escape. And you know what? I'm here for myself now. And that means I'm not letting you, or anyone like you, destroy my life ever again. I took a deep breath, and with a satisfaction so profound it nearly made me dizzy, I said the words I'd dreamed of saying for years. Don't ever call me again. And then, I hung up, blocked his number, and for the first time in a very, very long time, I felt truly, completely free, equals.